Okay, so my phone keeps lying to me about how much time I've got left to make a video, so I'm gonna have to clear some information on it so I can make a larger video instead of do these 10-minute shorts. So we were basically at about the Council of 300, Council of 30, Council of 13. That would be the capstone of the pyramid. Every one of those persons has been elected by the bodies of each family, and usually has to do with seniority, age, qualifications, status, your bloodline, where you come from, who you are, all that matters. So when it comes down to it, all of that's taken in consideration, and every single person basically has been looked up and down, left and right, to the point where everything's known about them, down to what their favorite toothbrush is. Now, that being said, what their purpose is to kind of deliberate and debate and talk amongst each other as far as what the next however many years agenda of, well, essentially the world will be. And it's not about maintaining control as much as it is maintaining order and structure, so humankind can continue to exist. It's very complicated when you think about the way that we live right now as human beings. We've got all kinds of different things when it comes down to money supply, developing a system by which people can live, where they can buy things and have the necessities that they need, and it's difficult to get the whole world into that position with everything that's going on. You look at some areas around the world, and you've got destabilized countries with rebels that essentially that are fighting the government and stuff like that, and you got corrupt government that's fighting what you would call freedom fighters, and there's a lot of situations like that where destabilization has made it difficult to get in there to be able to stabilize the country so that people can start living like normal instead of struggling and fighting for their lives on a daily basis. But that's a different story altogether. As you rise into those positions, you start making calls that are regarded over, if you're a Council of 300, you would be making a deliberation that would rise up to the Council of 30, and then that deliberation of those individuals would rise up to the Council of 13, and so it kind of rises from bottom to top as far as discussions go, of things that are going on. And when you get to the Council of 300, you're not only having discussions like that with other members. You are actually making decisions that can completely change a country in itself, or even a territory larger than a country. You could consider something like Western civilization as being kind of a territory, because the societies all run the same way. So a lot of times you'll find that there's an agenda that happens between all Western civilizations that becomes implemented at about the same time. Like I was saying about London earlier, they had an interest in transferring the protein to bugs, and Queen Elizabeth II was shortly, she had what we would call, what did I say it was? She passed on from, because she was old. It was pneumonia. I believe it was pneumonia. And so, that was one of the things where, part of the agenda was to feed the Western civilization crickets and bugs, shit and protein, and that did not go well with the higher ups. We'll put it that way. I disagreed with it, and I'm sure many others did as well. That being said, as the questions are deliberated of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in society, and what is brought forward, gets deliberated amongst these individuals, the majority of them are highly educated. All of them are extremely intelligent. Every single one of them has what you would call mastered their craft, whatever their profession was. That's the basic fundamental foundation. And one of the things that you'll find is that there's barriers of information as you rise through the ranks, going from level to level. You will know about the lower levels, and you will understand how they operate, what they control, what their purpose is, what they need to do, what their function is in society. And you'll have the understanding of how the whole entire system works together the higher you get. But if you're in the middle, let's say that you're president of the United States, you really won't know what's going on above you, which would be like the capstone, the invisible area in the capstone. You would just be essentially taking orders. And so if you want to know how things work, that's kind of one of the things, is that you'll see a lot of the leaders of the world, they only reach about 2/3 of the way up the pyramid. And those are the leaders that you see that are in the limelight, that give the press conferences, that go to Bohemia Grove and do weird stuff. Just because you're higher than their level and what they do doesn't mean that you're running around doing weird stuff like that, like sacrificing babies and doing weird funky shit. That's not required to reach the ranks. As a matter of fact, if you abstain from all that, that's one of the ways that you can reach the higher levels of the ranks, is through basically suffering through adversity and massive, what you would call torture, without retaliation. I would say that would be the hardest part, is not being vengeful or vindictive or angry about anything that's happened to you, and feeling like you need to teach the people a lesson who tortured you and treated you poorly. Being able to let go of that really shows character. And so when someone's able to do that, they rise above the ranks much quicker than someone who does stuff like what you would say at Bohemia Grove, or with the people that worship Moloch. The stuff that they do is kind of gross, and it's kind of what you would say finding it's what you call a quick path to power, right? The evil side likes to give you a quick path to power. And so you get the quick, easy way, or you get the long, hard way. And the long, hard way is the righteous, good way. And that's why good always wins against evil, because the sheer amount of endurance that is required and the strength that is required to maintain your character is tried and tested. You get thrown through the fire like none other. It's Dante's Inferno. And so I've explained that quite a bit to a lot of different people. As far as my experiences go, I've been shot at quite a bit for a long period of time. Been in a couple knife fights. I've been beaten half to death. I got put in a white torture room for 4 months and basically driven to the edge of insanity, deprived of sleep. My freedom was almost taken from me until I took it back and told them they couldn't do that. But I had to be wise, and I had to be intelligent. I had to be educated enough to defend myself against those situations. And I almost died from disease, and I almost died when I was born. My birth didn't go quite right, and I had some weird anomalies that I did as a child. I never crawled. I just got up and walked. My brother was the same way. He didn't speak till he was 3, and his first words were a sentence. So we're not exactly what you would call average human beings. I've got the eyes that will show you that I'm a chosen one. They look right through you. They're like it's like the 1,000-mile stare from the shit that I've seen in my entire life. You will look into my eyes and you'll fucking know what I've seen. It's kind of the things that you've seen when you look at a veteran who's seen the hells of war. They've got the same look in their eyes, except I haven't experienced that. I know I've seen some things that I'd rather have not ever seen, and know some things that I'd rather never know. Some people are perfectly fine with that. They can get along just fine every day, lacking a conscience and brushing it under the rug. But when it comes down to it, I have a conscience, and I'm basically an empath. I come from a bloodline of Native Americans that that coined the phrase Heyoka empath. It's one of the strongest empaths on the planet. I come directly from the bloodline of the what you would call the royalty of that particular Native American tribe, and so I'm like the lineage of I'm the guy, right? I'm the guy that holds the bloodline of that tribe in me. And so, you know, they're actually in the USA, they're making a statue of him right now, you know, similar to Mount Rushmore. So Crazy Horse, yeah, that's my direct ancestor. And so the Heyoka empath is like one of the strongest empaths on the planet. It's kind of funny because he's like they're known to be like the village idiot, but they're revered because of their ability to create happiness through hardship. And I match everything that describes them. Every single trait that describes one of those empaths is me, and that's one of the four bloodlines that I have in me that have some special attributes that kind of, you know, I guess you could say make me whatever you want to call it. So there's these councils, and as you go up into them, they kind of decide the outcomes of the world. And you know, there's 13 members. There's 6 on one side, 6 on the other side. You could call them black tiles and white tiles, metaphorically speaking, and there's going to be a tiebreaker. So in the course of history, there's always kind of like a balance with that, and there will be what you would call a tiebreaker to make the final decision. And the 13th man is, I'm not going to explain how they're picked, who they are, what they do, because that's kind of biblical as far as different Bibles and different ancient texts kind of explain that. If you look at all of them together, it explains who the 13th member is. But you know, there's also an entity that resides above the 13 members. Very few people know that. There's an actual entity that resides above the highest order of the pyramid, and that's why you can also see that on the dollar. There's a symbolism of that as well. And those people are kind of like what you would call the arbiters of society, the arbiters of justice. They've been through absolute hell. They've been through so much that, you know, they either are completely evil or they're righteous to the point where they don't care. They will die to make sure that things go according to the betterment of society and people as a whole. No one